welcome to a live Kerfefe break on Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I am Keri. Sorry I'm late today. For any people, any regular Deprogrammed folks who are here, I see a lot of you. I apologize. I was trying to get some images ready for today's stream. It's Cinco de Mayo. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I don't have a sombrero. Can you believe that? Everybody's like says I have a lot of hats. I don't know if I have a lot, but I do have several hats. I don't have a sombrero, but Tiger, my dog, has two. Look at this. This is one that Anthony bought him, and it's the smaller one. He's also got a very large one. He's the most spoiled dog because he he has two. Although to be fair, he is Latinx and I'm not, so maybe I shouldn't have one. People would say it's cultural appropriation. Anyway, happy Cinco de Mayo. That's my husband in the chat. He's got some shows this weekend that he's on his way to. Good to see you here. Yeah. That's Tiger's special little sombrero. Okay. I hope you guys are having a happy Friday. Announcements. If it's your first time here, this is a live show we do Mondays and Fridays here on Deprogrammed, and it's called Kerfefe Break. Just kind of talk about what's in the news, what's on my mind, what's on your mind, and and if you are a regular and you like the channel and want to help support it, you can do so at Patreon, Subscribestar, Locals, or here at YouTube. We have memberships. You can also hit like. You can leave a comment that helps the algorithm. And what else? I took a couple of Thursdays off from doing interviews because we've had a lot of house renovation stuff going on. But yesterday, I got to do another deprogrammed interview, which usually those come out on Thursdays. And I got to do one in person for the first time, doing one in person with my friend Reagan Keith. He's a very impressive young man. He's only 18 years old. He is very interested in politics, has a lot of strong opinions, well thought out opinions, and he is a Christian, and he came on to talk about Generation Z, politics, his faith. He is a Christian nationalist. If you haven't seen that interview yet, I definitely recommend it. That was a lot of fun. We're going to try to do some more of those. We'll get better with the tech as we go along, as we try those in-person ones. But that was yesterday. And then Wednesday nights, we do our live pop culture show, me and Mystery Chris. That's always a load of fun. This week we did furries. For anyone who needs to know what furries are, maybe you don't know, you can go watch that show. So that's it. Oh, one more announcement. If you're in the Dallas, Texas area, and you're going to be at Chrissy Mayer and Lila Hart's shows this weekend, I hope I get to see you. I'm going to be heading to Dallas after this and hanging out with those guys and going to have a lot of laughs. I think she's playing at Hyena. She's got 2 shows tonight, 2 tomorrow night. And you can find out more info at Chrissy Mayer's website. But Adam with the puns. Hello, Adam. He says, it's furry disturbing. Furry. Very. I get it. Ian, so forth. Hello. He says, no one needs to know what furries are. I know way too much about furries now, says Jules. Okay, well, some parents need to know. I even saw someone in the comments, a parent who said they had just learned what furries were because their middle schooler knows what furries are now. So, yeah, there's more parents trying to figure out what that community is and if it's okay for their kids to be a part of it or not. So, I would suggest the video. Okay, so for today, hey guys, hey Pirate, hey Therese, hello everyone. Okay, so for today, 2 sisters and some yarn. One of our mods here, Amy, sent me some videos that got me thinking about parents who are not just okay with transitioning their kids, meaning putting them on the puberty blockers, putting them on cross-sex hormones, and in some cases even, doing double mastectomies, getting them in line for these surgeries. The parents who are not just supportive of that, but the ones who are maybe pushing it, maybe creating an environment in which their child is more likely to say, yes, that's me. I need that. I need that surgery. So we're going to start, just so you can see what I'm talking about, we're going to start with a couple of these videos, which are pretty alarming. Let's see if I can get this on the screen. So this guy, Greg Price, on Twitter is sharing some testimony from Louisiana. So Louisiana has this legislation, like a lot of states have, like Florida passed, and Texas is trying to pass, and several other states are trying to pass legislation that would protect children who are unable to consent to medical intervention for, supposed transgenderism or gender dysphoria. They're trying to protect kids from that. They're trying to protect kids from these kind of medical decisions that, frankly, they're not old enough to be able to make. These medical decisions have permanent effects on them for the rest of their life. We require children to become adults for so many things in society. We've collectively agreed, look, kids are not the same as adults. Their brains aren't the same. Their brains aren't finished developing. And so we're not going to treat children as adults in these ways. We're not going to allow children to drive a car, to buy a gun, to drink alcohol, to smoke cigarettes, to have sex with adults. We're not going to allow them to do these things. And yet somehow this new radical leftist ideology, this social justice woke ideology, in the past few years has made so much they've gained so much grounds in trying to convince people that this is normal, and that kids, oh yeah, sure, kids should be able to decide if they're going to sterilize themselves for the rest of their life or cut off their body parts or their reproductive organs. Sure, that's not normal. This is not a normal thing that's happening in society. And so some states like Louisiana are trying to protect kids from this and say, you know what? You have to be 18 to decide if you're going to do this, which is not a conservative or a liberal position. It's a rational, sane position. It's not left or right. So let's watch a little bit of this, because these are some parents who were there testifying against these bills that would protect kids. And they were trying to explain how they first knew their kids were trans. I put that in quotes because I don't believe all of these kids are trans or have gender dysphoria, as we've seen from many of the stories of detransitioners. Okay, so this Greg Price on Twitter, he says, a woman testifying to the Louisiana House of Representatives against HB 463, which would ban pediatric gender mutilation, says that she knew her daughter was actually a boy because, quote, her food choices were odd. They were always raw green vegetables, end quote. Isn't that weird? So I guess she's saying girls don't like to eat raw green vegetables, only boys. And that's how she knew that her daughter was a boy. Let's just listen to her.
Had anxiety and would never sleep, and we couldn't figure out what the problem was. We took him to specialists and neurologists, and he had brain scans trying to figure out why he couldn't sleep. Then as he grew, he got to sleeping, but his food choices were odd. They were always like green vegetables, raw green vegetables, which, if you know kids, most kids don't like to eat those things. And then the precocious puberty. All of those things, once we figured out that he was transgender, when he came to us and told us that he was transgender, when we went back and realized that the pattern of everything that he had experienced as a child, including eating green vegetables because that boosts testosterone, were just methods of his body trying to become who he was meant to be. His brain does not match his physiology.
She's a doctor all of a sudden as well. His brain doesn't match his physiology. Okay. That's not, there's no science behind that. Yeah, a couple people in the chat have comments about this, which, yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about it. Tara T, hello, lady. She says, I guess it's strange that any kid doesn't want to eat junk food, but I would be happy. Yeah. Instead of just saying, hey, I guess my kid likes vegetables, this woman's like, I guess my daughter's a boy. Davina Duckworth, just a crazy healthy kid. Yeah. Maybe you just have a kid who likes vegetables. Could it be that simple? I don't know. Okay, we'll watch another one. He's got another parent here. Greg Price says, this lady says that she had a gut feeling that her daughter was a boy when she liked to play with male toys when she was 18 months old. 18 months, a year and a half. And she's now going to start, quote, gender affirming care, end quote, at 11 years old. So that means medical and surgical transition at 11. She's letting her 11-year-old be the person who decides, like, I wonder how much of it is the parent influencing. Let's listen.
And then I was Christmas shopping for them. They were 18 months old, and I bought one of those toy tool benches, and I was making the joke that, well, when one of them comes to me and says they're a man when they're 18, I can't say I didn't see it coming, just because they kind of did draw to boy toys. And I was just making a joke. But I am so glad I said it out loud, because I have that in my mind now that at 18 months old, something somewhere was telling me what he knew all along. Sure, of course. Okay. But so when he could start talking, he articulated to me that he was a boy. Mommy, I'm a boy. Mommy, I'm a boy. And both of my kids did Mommy, I'm a puppy, all that. It was very different. And
Is it very different? Why is it different? Why is it different? You're deciding it's different. That if your child says she just admits her kid said, I'm a puppy, and she just disregards that, but her kid says, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy, and she's like, oh, this must be truth. This is coming from somewhere meaningful. Not like the puppy thing.
Drug our feet on it, because what? It's normal to not understand that, obviously. So we saw therapists and we saw doctors, and ultimately we came to know what he has known all along, which is that he really is a boy. He really is. And
He's really not.
will be starting gender affirming care for him. He's been seeing doctors for years, and it is a very long process. They are very thorough.
So I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. I'm going to give you a few extra seconds to prove that. You can have it up.
Aren't they cute though? Okay.
Okay, I'm not giving you that much extra.
Okay. But full disclosure, this is a slightly older photo, because now they are preteens, and taking a photo for mom where they both smile is like, nah, that's lame. So now that he is almost 11 and starting puberty, we are discussing puberty blockers. And what that would do, it would prevent him from growing the body of a woman, because I promise you, he's not a woman. He shouldn't be in a woman's body. And honestly, I don't think he could survive if we forced him into it. I really don't. So we will find that care for him. I will go to the ends of the earth if I had to for either of these children. And we'll probably just go to New York, not the ends of the earth. But if this bill passes. So please don't make us travel for doctor's appointments. Don't make us consider leaving the state.
Wow. She will go to New York to make sure that her 11-year-old, who's unable to consent to these permanent changes to her body, she will go to New York to make sure that her 11-year-old can do that. And we're supposed to believe in this society, what they're pushing on us, the narrative they're pushing, is that she's the one that cares for her kid. A woman who just admitted that when her child was only 18 months old and couldn't speak, she already had an inkling that her daughter was a boy because she liked to play with a boy toy. She said it was like a little workbench, fake tools. So because her 18-month-old daughter picked up a plastic hammer, this woman had already decided she's probably a boy. And we're also supposed to believe that her belief that her daughter was a boy before her daughter was even speaking didn't play any part in her child coming to this decision. This is what Josh Slocum on Disaffected calls Munchausen by proxy, in my opinion, where you're pushing this on your child. Yes, thank you. Thank you for the super chat, Ian So Forth. 15 pounds. Thank you, sir. He says, I'm convinced these types of parents see their children as fashion accessories, just another vessel to project their own issues through. Absolutely. I'm in a lot of these groups for parents of transgender kids. Again, I put that in quotes. There's tens of thousands of parents in these groups. They are cults. If you are a parent who comes there looking for help and support and you have questions, if you don't immediately bend to the orthodoxy there and start using the preferred pronouns and start with the transition process for your child, if you're not fully on board with this cult, they kick you out. They don't allow dissent. And a lot of the parents in those groups are women. Most of them are white women without a father in the home. This is just based on what I've noticed. It's just me looking through these forums a lot. A lot of them are divorced white women, or there are quite a few who themselves are trans. There are several I've seen where the parent says, I'm trans and I have 3 trans kids. Things like that. That's crazy, right? What are the odds? Michael Kolyar for $4.99. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you so much. He says, I'll have to catch the rest tonight. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you very much for supporting. Let's see if I missed anything. I don't think so. Okay. I'm going to show you, since I mentioned it, I was trying to get these images ready so I could show you a few things. Any given day, it doesn't matter what day it is, if I check in to these parents groups for so-called trans kids, within the first top 10 posts that day, you're going to find some very disturbing things every day. Every day. You don't have to go far back. So I'm just going to show you some stuff that's at the top of the page today in one of the groups. This is one of the biggest groups on Facebook. It's a private group. I don't think they allow anyone to get in anymore because they don't like people doing what I'm doing, which is talking about what's happening there, even though I black out the names and I keep people anonymous. They don't like people revealing what's happening in a cult. You wouldn't like people seeing. You would think that if you have no shame about this and this is all normal, you wouldn't mind people seeing it, but they really mind people seeing it. So it's very hard to get into these groups now. Okay, let me see. I know this is kind of hard to read. I'll read through some of this with you. So the parents can also decide to post anonymously. Some of them do. So this parent posted anonymously, so I didn't have to black out their name. This anonymous parent says today or yesterday, says, hi, I'm non-binary. So first of all, this parent is non-binary. This, by the way, very common in this group. Very common in these groups. The parent themselves is okay. Just in case you think this is odd, it's not. This is very common in these groups. Hi, I'm a non-binary mom to an 8-year-old trans girl. So to a little boy who says they're trans, 8 years old. Wonder if the non-binary mom had anything to do with this little boy thinking he's a girl. I don't know. I'm a non-binary mom to an 8-year-old trans girl. This is weird and maybe a small CW for gender dysphoria, talk of body parts. I assume CW is like trigger warning, content warning, something like that. Okay. She's been talking about her 8-year-old son, a boy. She's been her authentic self basically her whole life. She is what we would call gender fluid and doesn't have any issues with being both a boy and a girl. And we don't do gender norms in our world, and we value all body parts as they are, but she is a she. Again, she's talking about her 8-year-old little boy. And look at what's in that first paragraph right there. We don't do gender norms in our world. Like everything, she's telling you about the environment in which this 8-year-old has been raised. And again, is this non-binary parent maybe affecting what this child believes about themselves? I think so. Okay, so then she says, recently she, meaning he, the 8-year-old boy, started standing to pee. This makes me, all caps, feel uncomfortable. She's uncomfortable that her 8-year-old son, a boy, and a biological boy, is standing to pee. Obviously, nothing is or will ever be said, as I don't let her know I noticed this. I honestly didn't even intend to notice. I just have caught it out of the corner of my eye. I don't care that she's standing, meaning the boy. It doesn't bother me, like as far as saying anything. I don't think it's a problem, is what I mean. I love that she's comfortable standing and sitting. I love she uses her quote boy parts. And then she goes, yes, girls have penises too. No, your child is a biological boy. That's why he has a penis. That's why he has a penis. Girls do not have penises too. Imagine being raised by a parent who has you this confused. Not just about biology and your body and your gender and gender norms or all the different things that your parent has you confused about, just reality. How could you trust anything? I had a problem when I was a young adult for a long time, and maybe to some degree still today, trusting authority figures. Yeah, I probably do have a problem trusting authority, authoritarians, but heavy. But I had a problem because I saw hypocrisy from some adults in my childhood. I saw that things they said they believed, or things they said or allowed people to believe about them outside the home, were very different than inside the home. And so that messes with the kid's head. And it wasn't like this. This is outright. I don't know what would have happened to me if I had a parent like this when I was 8. I wouldn't know what was real, what wasn't, what's up, what's down. This is the adult that's supposed to be protecting you and guiding you in the world, and they're like, girls have penises? What? So anyway, she has a problem that her 8-year-old boy, her son, is standing to pee. And so she says, I love that she, meaning he, is comfortable standing and sitting. I love that she uses her boy parts. Yes, girls have penises too, she says. And this has helped tremendously with zero gender dysphoria so far. But it makes me feel weird for some reason. Yeah, maybe it makes you feel weird because you really want your 8-year-old son to be a girl. And I think I saw in the chat, I'm sorry, I'm trying to read this so it scroll by, but I think I saw Brentley here from Dangerous Rhett. Hello, Brentley. Yes, who said she would, I can't find it now, but he said something and I saw it scroll by that, she would cut her son's penis off if she could. Yes, I think she would. He says it makes her feel weird because she hates men. Yeah, maybe so. Maybe so. So she says, it makes me feel weird for some reason. Again, if you're just joining us, this is a quote unquote non-binary mom who is feeling weird because her 8-year-old son, a biological boy who she calls a girl and says is trans and is a girl, is standing up to pee and using his penis to pee. And she would prefer that her son sit like a girl. She says, it makes me feel weird for some reason. Do you know why? I'm nervous she's feeling a certain way inside or being bullied or something. I don't know, but I don't want to bring it up. Has anyone experienced this? Am I overthinking it? I feel both proud and worried. Thanks in advance if you read this. This is a post from yesterday. If you go into these groups, like I said, you don't have to dig for disturbing stuff. The parents who are in these groups like Parents Supporting Parents of Trans Kids on Facebook, these private groups with tens of thousands of members, they are in a cult. They kick out the parents who have questions, who don't go along with this craziness. And this is the kind of stuff you read in there. It's absolutely normal within this group. It's not normal. It's not normal, but within this group it is. So I want to show you another thread that was at the top, another post that was at the top. I've blacked out the names in this one. Now, what's interesting is that in the groups, it used to be, I think things are starting to change a bit, because it used to be that if a parent had any concerns about putting their children on puberty blockers or cross-sex hormones, they would be shamed immediately and basically told there are no side effects whatsoever. And, you know, they would be kicked out of the group if they continued to express any concern. And I think what I've noticed in the past maybe 6 months in these groups is that they are starting to reckon with the fact that, first of all, that the cross-sex hormones can and do cause sterility in some of the kids who are taking them. And they're also starting to reckon with the fact that the so-called puberty blockers also do things like affect bone density. And so it used to be they didn't let anyone discuss these things at all. Now they're allowing discussion of it, but they still try and allay the concerns of the parents in the group and continue to push them towards this, their children getting on these drugs. So here's a great example of that. This was from 3 days ago in the group, and people are still commenting on it. There's a lot of comments on it, so it's up near the top, 57 comments on it. The parent asks, "Hello all. I am currently in discussions with my 9.5-year-old regarding blockers," meaning puberty blockers. "I am nervous about a couple things, and I was hoping I could get some insight. If your child, and I mean youngish, under 12, although I'd like all opinions, is on them, what was the deciding factor? Did you get them simply because your child asked for them, or something else? Did you have concerns? What were your thoughts about fertility further down the line? I think there are more, but I just wanted to put these out there because I never realized the pressure we would be under to make these decisions for our child. It's scary. I don't want to make the wrong decision." Now, in the past, this is the kind of thing where they would immediately pile on. And now they've gotten a bit more, good cop, where they're like, "Don't worry about the concerns." Like, now they don't immediately kick them out for these questions. And I think that's because they're starting to they're having to grapple with the fact that, yes, there are effects on your child's body from taking these puberty blockers, and there are effects on your child's body from taking the cross-sex hormones. And so that to me says that people like Billboard Chris and others who are out, a lot of the detransitioners like Chloe Cole, who are out there talking about these issues, have moved the needle a little bit, where they're having to acknowledge this. It used to be they would pretend there's no issues whatsoever. Okay, so one other quick thing. They're talking here about fertility down the line. Now, so far, as far as we know, the puberty blockers are not the ones that cause the problem with infertility. As far as we know, they're not actually approved for this, for trans and kids. So we're kind of, all these kids are guinea pigs right now. We don't know all the effects that will happen down the line when you have a kid on these. They used to be used for precocious puberty for a short period of time, and now they're being used just for kids who say they're trans or have gender dysphoria, and they're staying on them until they go on the cross-sex hormones. And so the cross-sex hormones are the ones that cause the problems with fertility. And some of the recent whistleblowers, the people who work in quote unquote gender affirming care, who've come out and blown the whistle, one of whom we did a whole episode on her. She herself is married to a trans man. She herself describes herself as queer, and she's on the left. And but she couldn't hold her tongue anymore. And she was like, after years of working in this, there's all these problems. And she said, here's one of the problems. I don't know if you guys remember this woman that I'm talking about. She said, one of the problems is that 100% of the time in her clinic, if the kids were on the puberty blockers, they would also then go on the cross-sex hormones. And she's like, that tells me there's something wrong. There's some kind of psychological pressure there. There's some, because normally what you would expect to see is there would be a certain percentage who would choose, you know what? This wasn't for me. This wasn't what I thought it was. They say the puberty blockers are just to quote unquote pause puberty. That's what these activists say. It's just to pause puberty and then they can choose. Well, 100% of them are choosing to then go on the cross-sex hormone. So sounds to me like there's something else going on here psychologically where 100% of them are saying, yep, this was right. Moving on, until then later down the road, you get a lot of them detransitioning after they've already gotten on the cross-sex hormones. And in some cases, after they've already chosen to cut off their body parts. It's just funneling kids into this. So, okay, let's look at some of the responses. Here's what some of the other parents in the group say. The nice thing about blockers is once the kids stop taking them, puberty kicks in. Basically, they're a pause button. These kids don't stop taking them. That's what we're just talking about. They stay on them until they go on cross-sex hormones. One of the problems that detransitioners has talked about, Jazz Jennings has talked about this, and I've seen others talk about this, is if they start the puberty blockers this young, like this woman is talking about her 9.5-year-old. If they start the puberty blockers that young, they don't actually, their genitalia doesn't develop. So then if later they decide, hey, I want to have some kind of reconstruction surgery, I want to, some of them like Jazz, I want to cut my penis off and I want to have one of these so-called neo-vaginas crafted. They don't have enough material to work with down there because their genitalia hasn't developed. And this is why they're taking material from other places. I don't know if you guys saw the news recently about one of the child patients died during one of the studies of these surgeries because in order to create a fake vagina, they took tissue from her anus. They took tissue from they took from her anal canal. Like they took that and used it as a vagina, and there was an infection. We can pull that up so I can get the details on it right. But that information just came out and that was years ago. Like they try to hide that information. Yes, that's what it was. It was pieces of the colon. They had to use pieces of the colon to make the fake vagina. And there was a bacterial infection. So, okay, this parent says, the nice thing about blockers is once the kids stop taking them, puberty kicks in. Basically, they're a pause button. You'll see them repeat this a lot. This is a lie. Basically, they're a pause button. Basically, they're a pause button. Basically, they're a pause button. No. They give you time to make the important decisions while holding off puberty and body changes that may cause bigger issues down the road. You know what may cause big issues? Your genitalia not developing. So then if you decide to get surgery, they don't have material to work with. That could cause issues. She continues. There are no side effects for fertility. The biggest issue with them is that they can cause bone density issues. Look, they're finally admitting that. No big deal, right? You're just going to cause bone density issues for your 9-year-old, make her bones all frail. Your doctor should work with you on monitoring that. My kiddo started on blockers at age 9. He is 14 and thriving. That's biological girl she's talking about. He passes beautifully. I attribute much of it to the blockers. Good luck. We're going to read a few more of these responses because it's all in the, you'll see it's all in the responses. How they're all kind of like, well, yeah, there are bone density problems and problems with cognitive development, but you should still do it, right? That's what they're saying. Okay, here's another parent. This is the original parent who asked the question. So this parent replies and says, "My concern is bone density, cognitive development, and height. Although height is the least of our worries, but I get it. I think it just worries me altogether. And what happens with fertility after the blockers and before testosterone? I should have been more clear about that." So another parent replies, "My understanding is that blockers do nothing to fertility. That doesn't become affected until they start hormones. We work with a pediatric endocrinologist that started him," meaning a girl, "on testosterone at the time when they can maximize his height. He still grew while he was on blockers. It is just a prepubescent rate." Oh my goodness, I can't talk today. "He still fits in with his peers. They also started his testosterone, so he would grow about the same time as most of his peers. I haven't heard anything linking to cognitive development, nor did I notice anything with my kiddo. The bone density is monitored. We have had no issues yet. I hope that helps." So again, this parent started her daughter on puberty blockers and testosterone at 9. The kid is 14 now. No problems yet. Hope that helps. If you can connect with a gender clinic or awesome doctor, an awesome doctor, they will guide you through it all. Okay. Here we go. Here's more. Here's another parent. "My daughter," now again, I hope I don't have to tell you that almost all of these parents are women. Okay, "My daughter started hers 3 months ago. She's about to get her second dose. She was doing so well after she came out, and then puberty started. It was traumatic for her. There's no other way to describe it. Blockers put a pause button on puberty. These aren't perfect, but they're a lot better. Blockers do not affect fertility. As someone else mentioned, bone density can be an issue. My daughter had blood work, a bone density scan, and an x-ray of her hand prior to starting blockers. She will have a bone density scan once a year and blood work and hand x-ray every 6 months while she's on them. She can decide whether she wants or needs HRT when she's older." Here's another parent. "Hi, so I was going to say what so-and-so said about the blockers. So no need to worry about fertility. And on the side of my daughter eventually taking them, she is currently 8, but the conversation is coming. So we've had the conversation with her about her ultimate goals with her transition. And even if she could change her mind about what steps she wants to take with her transition, as of right now, she does not want to have to go through anything a boy does. They're talking about a boy. She has older brother, so she kind of knows. And with some of the mental health issues she has, I think her wanting to take blockers is what is best for her. I think her doctors think that male puberty could be life-threatening for her. So at the end of the day, taking this step for her is the right way to go. Every person has their own steps they want or need to take. So I would go off base of what's best for your child and how to help them reach the goals they currently want. Because at the end of the day, blockers are reversible," she says. "Good luck to you. Blockers are reversible." Blockers are not reversible. Blockers stop your child's genitalia from developing. That's not reversible. Ask Jazz Jennings if it was reversible. The parents in these groups don't get any other kind of advice. Because as I mentioned, anyone who's critical gets kicked out. So there's no one in there saying, "I chose not to put my child on it because I don't want my child to have bone density issues, or I don't want my child's genitalia to be stunted, or nobody says that stuff." Here's what they do say. Here's another parent. I'm trans and a parent. Okay, look, again, I told you, not uncommon in these groups for a lot of the parents of trans kids to themselves be non-binary or trans. Okay. I'm trans and a parent. Whether your child goes through natural puberty or puberty with the assistance of hormones, that's a choice that will have permanent effects on their body. Blockers delay the need to make that choice. Blockers do not affect fertility. If your child is not sure how they want their body to look, or they express a desire to have the type of body that hormones would enable them to have, I suggest you pursue blockers. Then when the child is older and to make an informed decision, usually around the time that they start high school, how do you decide that? So what is that? 14 or 15, they get to, then they know. Then they'll be given the choice of going off blockers, which, as we know, at this one clinic with the whistleblower, none of them did. They're just shuttled into the cross-sex hormones at that point. They'll be given a choice of going off blockers and allowing natural puberty to progress or to go on hormones. At that point, they do need to make a choice because puberty is necessary for proper bone development. To everyone else, it will just seem like your kid is a bit of a late bloomer, but not outside the norm. Here's another parent. Feel free to PM me if you have more questions. My son started blockers October 2021, so he was 10 years old. She's talking about a little girl. A 10-year-old little girl. When my significant other expressed to me that he was transgender, when my SO, I think she means son. I think the N got dropped off. Okay. When my son expressed to me that he was transgender, I spoke with some older transgender folks and asked, what is the one thing you wish your parents would have done and why? All of them said blockers. The blockers are not a permanent solution, but they give my child more time to explore his identity, more time with his counselor and doctors. By using blockers, my son won't get his period and have dysphoria every month. He won't develop the curves of a woman. Once you get curves, they don't always go away if you start testosterone. I guess the big thing was if my child is going to go down this journey with a world full of hate, I want him to have the best tools to support him on his journey. We're just going to, I'm going to show you one more screenshot. This goes on and on and on with the same advice and the same kind of stories where, where they're all like, my child started at 9, my child started at 10. All of these very young children. Here's another parent. I have a 13-year-old who's been on them since age 10. They're a lifeline for pausing puberty and letting kids figure out what they need. This is what they say over and over. You're just pausing puberty. You're just letting them choose what they need. They might choose not to continue. Then they go on the cross-sex hormones, which do cause the sterility issues. Here's another parent. My son had been identifying as a boy since he was about 5. At 12, he was so anxious that he couldn't go to school and he was panicking about female puberty starting. For us, it was a simple decision. He was able to return to school. And when he started testosterone at 14, he went through male puberty with other boys his age. He graduated 5th in his class of over 500 kids. I'm a huge supporter of puberty blockers. Excuse me one second, guys. Here's another parent. My kiddo is 14 now and has been on blockers for 3 years. So since the age of 11. He started them before he had his first monthly cycle and before he developed breasts. It's been so affirming because he doesn't have boobs and won't need to surgery in the future. The risks are super low. He's taking Lupron. And the benefits are that I have a mostly happy kiddo. Here's another parent. Whoa, this one exercises a little bit more caution. Because there are some side effects, I personally would wait until they were closer to puberty. It doesn't hurt to wait a few years. Wow. This is rare. But it might hurt to start too soon. That's just my thinking on it. My 14-year-old has not asked for it, so I have not pushed. That's a rare parent in these groups. Here's another parent. My daughter is 11 and about to start puberty blockers. She's having a DEXA scan to check her bone density, and they checked her vitamin D levels. She's been taking vitamin D and calcium supplements since her blood work in October. Anyway, you get the idea. It goes on and on and on, and it's, if you know, the trends are, it's usually a white woman, the parent, or a white transgender person or non-binary parent. There's usually not a dad in the picture, or if there is a dad in the picture, a lot of times the moms in these groups complain about the dad or the ex-husband and have set them up as some enemy. And a lot of these parents are, obviously, I think it should be obvious to any sane adult, a lot of these parents are setting up a whole lot of incentives for their kids to be trans. A whole lot of incentives. Kids want to make their parents happy. I'm going to bring up something about the puberty blockers. Billboard Chris has a lot of great, concise info on his website. And he tries to get, when he goes out and does conversations, he tries to get parents, people to go and actually look at some of it. Puberty blockers. Puberty blockers are drugs which, like the name says, completely block puberty from occurring. They are prescribed to healthy children as young as 10 years old who present with a condition known as gender dysphoria, a feeling that they want to be the other gender. Now, a note about that, I've started to see in some of these parents groups now, the parents of trans kids groups, that they're now saying that a child doesn't have to have gender dysphoria to be trans. Do you know why they're saying that? Because gender dysphoria used to be described as the feeling that you were born in the wrong body. It involved a discomfort, like an actual discomfort with your physical body. And not viewing your body, I would say, in a normal way, the way a normal person would, but having like general discomfort around it. In some ways, sometimes I think of it's not the same thing as body dysmorphia, but there are some similarities. Body dysmorphia being, the skinny girl who looks in the mirror and sees a fat person and just thinks they're so fat and they need to do something about it. So now the parents, a lot of them are saying, well, my child doesn't have gender dysphoria. I've seen posts like this in these groups where they say, my child doesn't have gender dysphoria. Is totally comfortable in their physical body, but keeps saying that they're the opposite sex. And I've seen other parents come in there and say, oh, a child doesn't need to have gender dysphoria to be trans. They know up here, even if they're comfortable with their body. Like that child we just saw at the very beginning, where it's a little boy, an 8-year-old boy who's standing up to pee and using his penis the way a boy does, standing up to pee, and clearly not having issues with it, not uncomfortable about it. His mom's uncomfortable about it. That child, I don't think, maybe doesn't have gender dysphoria. Maybe doesn't have a problem with his physical body. But because he's saying he's a girl, and I wonder why he's saying he's trans with a non-binary mom who speaks all this stuff at home all the time. So because he says he's trans, they're going to treat him like they've treated adults who do have gender dysphoria. So I think look for this to become more popular in the next few years. Is they're going to start to say children, they're going to start to say this more often, that children don't have to even have gender dysphoria in order to be trans. Okay. I'll continue here. the drug, talking about puberty blockers, the drug usually prescribed is Lupron, a drug that was given FDA approval to treat prostate cancer in men and endometriosis in women. That's what the drug is approved for. It's never been approved. There's no FDA approval to use it in the way in which it's being used on children right now. There's no FDA approval using it in this way. There have been no long-term clinical studies done on children. Puberty blockers are being used off-label to block kids' healthy natural development with grave physical consequences. The few small studies we do have show that they don't even provide any psychological benefit. What we do know is that if children are free to go through puberty, at least 4 out of 5 kids will see their gender dysphoria go away. That used to be the case. The way that psychologists used to treat gender dysphoria in children, which, by the way, used to be a lot more rare because it wasn't trendy then and you didn't get a lot of accolades for it then. It was actually, you could be pretty certain that if a child showed up saying they felt uncomfortable with their body or they had gender dysphoria, if they're describing the symptoms of gender dysphoria, you could be pretty certain they actually were experiencing those things because they weren't learning about it in elementary school. They weren't learning about it from their peers. They weren't learning about it from Tumblr and social media and all the celebrities who are talking about it now and the politicians. And it's everywhere now. All children now are being confronted with, like, you have to make a choice. Are you cis or are you trans? And it used to be like less than 1% of kids dealt with that. And the way that used to be treated was to figure out if there were any other underlying issues that needed to be addressed. All of the specialists who used to work with kids who had gender dysphoria, a lot of them have been unpersoned now. They've been canceled. They've been shunned. These used to be the experts, but because what they would do was not to immediately validate and put kids on this medical and surgical path, they would try and figure out, hey, is there something else going on here? Is there any abuse? Is there some other underlying psychological condition? Is there something else happening here? Now, we've seen instances with the detransitioners coming forward saying they knew I had underlying psychological issues like borderline personality disorder or things like that, and they still pushed me towards transitioning. What is the norm? What has become the norm in this country in the past few years has changed to immediately pushing children down this path of medical and surgical transition. And as Billboard Chris points out on the site, we don't have any long-term clinical studies, so these kids are all being used as guinea pigs. I haven't been looking at the chat. If you guys, let me just scroll through for a second. This is all very disturbing. Yeah, it is. It is very disturbing. I want to play just a little bit of a panel from Laura Funkgod. Laura Funkgod is a detransitioner. There are many of them now who are speaking out. And this came out last month. It was the first ever panel discussion with 7 detransitioners. And it was filmed on Detrans Awareness Day, which is the thing they're trying to make happen. And I hope they are successful, that because once these kids grow up or become young adults and they realize they made a mistake and they start to try to detransition, even though many of them have made these permanent medical decisions for their body, many have had mastectomies, things like this. Once they start to detransition, they're completely outcast from the cult of inclusivity and acceptance, right? Well, not if you say you're a detransitioner. They call these people all kinds of names. Not only are they now dealing with the consequences of decisions they were allowed to make as children when they should have been protected by their parents and by the medical establishment and by the laws in this country, and they weren't. Not only are they having to deal with all these problems they've caused for their body and the psychological healing that they need to do after having gone through this, but now they get attacked. Now they get attacked by woke people, by social justice people, by trans activists. So they're trying to make detrans awareness day a thing. And we're going to watch just a little bit of this panel. Here we go. You guys should follow Laura Funkgod if you want more content and information about detransitioners. So this is a panel with Chloe Cole, Laura Becker, Luca Hine, Brian Wagner, Estella Suarez Hamilton, and Shapeshifter.
I can speak for myself with my social transition, clinging on to that.
Talk into the microphone if you're going to talk, just so that it's easier to hear you. We want to hear your beautiful voice. Yeah, did it bring up any feelings for you guys? Like, and we're going to kind of do this open. If you want to answer the question, just talk into the mic.
Hello.
Is that working?
Hello, hello.
Here
Can
you
hear
are.
me? Okay, cool. Yes. You guys want to go? No, I brought up a lot of feelings for me. I medically detransitioned this past year, and I was still maintaining my social transition, clinging on to that. And
Somebody's asking about volume. That's the loudest I can get it. Unfortunately, I'm going to put the closed captions on as well, and I'll pause it and repeat some of it if it's hard to hear.
and kind of hearing about the process of other detransitioners, and even speaking to some people who are here today, learning how much commonalities we have with this journey, it makes you realize that, oh, well, maybe this is rare, but maybe this is not so rare as they're saying it is, especially when it comes to medical consequences. I can speak for myself with some of the effects that testosterone has had on my body. It's menopause. It's going through menopause at 19. And when your body's not ready for that, and the incontinence, there was like a list of that, the incontinence, not being able to hold your bladder, not being able to sleep because of heat flashes that are painful. It's ridiculous thinking that a teenager should go through that when they're just at the cusp of adulthood. So it brought up a lot of emotion, realizing that I wasn't alone in a lot of that. I know that I had a conversation with Chloe earlier this year about heat flashes, and that was the first time that I had spoken to anybody about like the itchiness and the uncomfortableness at night, and realizing that wasn't just me, and that's what you hear a lot. A lot of people will be like, oh, well, it's just you. I guess it just didn't work out for you. It's like, it's not just me. This is something that could happen, and it's exhausting. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So can we just go down the line really quick and you guys can introduce yourselves so we know who you are, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Hi, I'm Shape. I'm male detransitioner, gender nonconforming. You guys may know me from YouTube or Twitter. So this was pretty powerful, also triggering.
I'm going to put the link in the chat. And I'll put it in the description of the video afterwards so you guys can watch this on your own. You should really watch it. This is 7 detransitioners all together sharing a lot of the medical problems, the problems that they're dealing with post-transition, and that in some cases they'll be dealing with for the rest of their life. And because the volume's so low, I think it's better I just put the link here for everyone here. I'll post it one more time. Mark, thank you so much for becoming a new member. Also, I should say thank you again to your average Patriot nerd for gifting a bunch of memberships. I saw that happened on Monday. I think it was before, but I didn't see it until too late. So I didn't get to thank you during the stream, but thank you so much. Winning Reality says it's generational warfare. They took control of language a long time ago. We have to identify the root cause issues and remove their enablement. I absolutely agree. It's generational warfare. it's a lot of, there's a lot of different ways to describe it. I think it's a cultural war, it's a spiritual war, it's a war against reality, and it's generational. I mean, we are doing so much as a society. I'm not saying we in the chat, but we are doing so much harm to this generation of young people. And I don't know, like, what is that saying about, you know, you sow, what is it? You sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. I saw a friend shared something like that today, and that's what I was thinking. Like, yeah, that's exactly what we've been doing. Andrew Joyner, thank you for the super chat. £5 says, I just started that book, Time to Think, by Hannah Barnes, about the Tavistock Clinic. Can't recommend it enough. Thank you for that recommendation. Time to Think. Tavistock is the gender clinic in the UK that got shut down because a lot of the problems that whistleblowers have been highlighting. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this just because I wish we could have gotten the volume a little better, but go and check that out. I'm not going to keep beating this topic today. I just wanted to show you a little bit of what's in the Parents of Trans Kids forum. And there's several of these forums. They're all pretty similar. I just picked that one. There are others I could have gone into this morning. They're all pretty similar. And they're cult-like. And I hope that if there's some parent out there watching who has questions, I'm going to try and pick the best name for this video. So maybe I should call it Parents of Trans Kids or something. But because if you're having questions and you're in a group like that, you're only going to get one kind of answer. You're not going to hear about detransitioners. You're not going to hear about the medical problems. I'm going to put the link to that panel with the detransitioners in this video. So if you found this by some chance and you watched all the way to the end, if you have a kid who's telling you they're trans and you have any concerns or questions about it, before you make any decisions, just listen to some of these young adults who transitioned and now regret it, and listen to the things they're dealing with now. You owe it to your child, I would think, to hear from a variety of opinions, especially from people who went through it as a child, who did transition as children. So that's it. Kind of a heavy topic today. But that's it. Now we got to end on something fun. What can we end on? Come on, mods. Yeah, I didn't have something fun prepared for the end. We're doing something kind of heavy. I should always have something funny at the end. A bad dude named Corn Pop says, someone should go on that forum for transparency and say, my son doesn't have gender dysphoria or anything, but I really want a daughter. How can I get him on puberty blockers? They would know you're trolling immediately. I think you can't be that, like, you can see it in the post that a lot of these parents want trans kids. And in fact, if you then look at their profiles, they've made being the parent of a trans kid is like their whole identity, their banner, and it's in their names and their profile pictures, everything. They clearly want it, but they're not that overt. They're not that overt. Davina needs to be a subtle troll. Yes. Brahma Bull, let's have a nice ending. Okay, what can we do? What's a good, nice ending? I'm sorry, I should have prepared something for today. It is Cinco de Mayo. Let's see. Let me see what I find on. Oh, I looked for Cinco de Mayo on YouTube hoping to find something fun, and the first few things I found are social justice, woke lecturing. Of course. Oh, there's also some music though too. Oh, you know what I can show you? This isn't funny. Well, it's kind of funny, kind of creepy. Here's what I'll show you. This is totally unrelated to the topic we had today. But Mystery Chris and I have been talking about AI a lot, and we did a whole episode on AI art and how creepy it is, and how, in my opinion, it's not art because it lacks human joy. It lacks that spark, and how they still continue it'll probably get better, but currently they get a lot of things wrong. Like they don't, they have problems with fingers. The robots don't know how to do human fingers. They add way too many fingers. It's disturbing. But Mystery Chris sent me something to watch that I'm going to force you guys to watch because it bothered me a lot. Here we go. He says, good luck getting to sleep after you watch this. Okay, so some people apparently are using AI now to generate these fake commercials. Ooh, this is an AI generated ad called Synthetic Summer. I might have to turn the music off because I think they use a real song. Here, let's add it. It's so creepy because it's that uncanny valley thing where it's kind of familiar, kind of human, but not really. Somebody told me the world is gonna roll me. Just imagine that song. That's the song that plays. Isn't it weird? It's like they're kind of human and their mouths are kind of moving. They have weird fingers. And the way they're drinking the bottles is like the bottles like meld to their faces. It's oh, what? Ew, isn't that gross? I don't like where things are going. Yes. Sorry, I said we'd end on something fun and we ended on something creepy. It's so creepy. Apparently, there's a lot of these. They're nursing those bottles. Yeah, it's like the stuff of nightmares, like Black Mirror, Dark Mirror. Is it Black Mirror or Dark Mirror? I can't remember. It's coming back, by the way. I heard there's a new season coming out in June, and it's gonna have to be really good to top reality now. You know, they predicted a lot of things that are happening. They're gonna have to get really good to see what's coming down the pipeline now that we're in such a crazy place. A lot of those things have already come true. Black Mirror, yeah. Yeah, that's coming out. Okay, guys. Mark Cheddar says, I want to throw bread at that video. I don't know why, but okay. Andrew Knapp. AI art is not art is a little too broad. Yeah, probably. I get pretty passionate about it because it's also taking the place of real artists. And I have the same sort of similar opinion about it as I do with a lot of the music that's created by algorithm today anyway. Somebody wants to see cute animals. That's one thing. If you don't mind hanging on, there was a cute animal. I forgot. I did send myself a really adorable animal video that we could watch. Let's see if I can find it. Sorry, I'm making you guys wait. It's very rude. My apologies. Here it is. I gotta send this to myself though. I wish I had hold music. Oh, Dion. I'm so sorry. Dion says she has to go bury her cat. I am so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. I'm going to send you, you're the queen of quotes and words. I have a liturgy that I'm going to send you that you might appreciate. I don't know. Maybe you'll get something from it. This book I have of liturgies, they have different liturgies for all kinds of things, including loss, different kinds of loss. And the guy who wrote it's just really eloquent. Okay, we're going to end with this because this is just super cute, and it's a dog video. It's about a dog who is missing his best friend, who's also a dog. When Pound Cake's best friend moved away, he was crushed.
Time stands still, beauty and no.
I'm muting this. I always forget to do that. It says Duncan moved away. It broke our heart. He didn't understand. And there's like video of the dog looking for his neighbor at the dog that moved away. And so it says he's made lots of new friends and plays every day. And like, obviously they're taking him to the dog park and he's meeting other dogs. And it says he gets along with some better than others, but he never forgot his best friend next door. And he's like running the fun that they had. This is his best friend, the dog that moved away. It says, we knew he needed to see his friend again. So he got a special surprise. Look, they put him in a little jacket that says best buddy. And the neighbors who moved away are bringing their dog over to play after he hasn't seen him in a while. Look. Duncan doesn't live far. They'll have play dates for years. Look at them. They'll never lose the bond that they made. Don't forget that your pets feel too. It's true. Tiger's like this. He has some dogs that he loves more than others. He has dogs that he used to live with when, I've had different housemates the past few years. One dog who was a pit bull mix, who they were like the best friends. And if he sees a dog that he knows very well, he hasn't seen in a while, like they freak out just like a human. It's so cute. So there, we ended on something sweet. Just remember that dogs have feelings and emotions too. They do. And they also there are dogs they don't like, they're like, not a fan of that one. Cheeky Mare, my mod says Tiger doesn't like me. Cheeky, that's only because he hasn't spent enough time with you. I promise you. You'll have to come hang out more. Tiger is like a cat in a lot of ways. And he's sort of, when he first meets people, he's not like one of those overly friendly dogs who's got their mouth open and smiling like pet me. He doesn't do that at all. In fact, he's very standoffish and he's very judgmental and he makes you work for his affection. But after he's hung out with you 2 or 3 times and he knows you, then he's very affectionate. Like if you were to come to the house after he knows you, he'll run off the porch and greet you just like that dog did in that video. He'll be jumping up and down like a little jumping bean to see you because he gets really excited when he knows who you are. Robert says Tiger liked me right away. Oh, well, I guess he's busting what I'm telling. He's busting what I'm telling you, Cheeky Mare. But that was unusual. He doesn't usually like anyone right away. He makes you work for it. Oh, when's the next house concert? Thank you, lady. The next house concert is May 19th. I should have announced that at the beginning. May 19th, we're doing another show. If you're anywhere near Georgetown, Texas, or if you're going to visit and you want a ticket link, just DM me or email me actually, it's better email me, deprogrammedpod@gmail.com, deprogrammedpod@gmail.com. We keep the ticket link private, but I'll send it to you. Just let me know you're from the chat. And, so May 19th is going to be 2 shows that day. It's a Friday. And they're both going to be Latin music. Latinx. It's going to be great. And I hope to see some of you there. Brahma Bull says, we can't have Keri's interview with me sit at 666 views. All of you go watch it. You guys, please go watch the interview with Brahma Bull. I had so much fun talking with this gentleman. He wore an elegant smoking jacket. We talked about faith. I want to have another conversation with you, Brahma. It was particularly interesting because he's someone who's been a Christian for a long time and I'm pretty new Christian. And so that was cool because there's a lot of questions that I have and I think questions he had maybe, but go check it out. You'll see what I'm talking about. And thank you. Yeah. 2 Sisters in Some Yarn put the link up. And Cheeky says, is there a house concert in June or July? I'm not sure when the next one will be yet. We haven't decided. We have a lot of travel coming up. My husband's going to be traveling for a festival in Montana. So we have to figure out what all the travel is. But Robert says, go watch it, like it, and comment. Yes, thank you. Comments help. Comments help. That kind of engagement, I guess the YouTube algorithm says, oh, people, they love to comment. It must be a good video. So even if you leave a negative comment, I think it helps, which is okay. Okay. John says, Keri, keep a journal of your faith journey. Thank you, John. I do. I journaled for years and years, and then I quit for a long time. And I started again a few years ago. It's been very helpful for me, in part because it helps you process your thoughts and become more clear on what you think about certain things. It helps you process emotions and let go of them. And it also helps you to remember. I don't know if there are a lot of people are like me, but I sometimes have a problem with memory. And that wasn't even apparent to me until, like, if you read through your old journals and you realize, oh, I already figured that out a long time ago and then I forgot it. Like, so I'm journaling again, so I don't forget as many things that I've learned, life lessons. I don't want to have to keep learning them. So that's a good reason to journal. You can also put in there things you're grateful for, just like with prayer. You can do gratitude prayers because neuroscientists have done studies. Gratitude prayers are not just a cheesy thing to do. They actually affect your brain. If you make a list of things you're grateful for, it shows that it affects your mood. You start to feel better. It has positive effects on your brain. So that's a good thing you could do in a journal. Okay. You guys have a happy Cinco de Mayo. Have a happy weekend. And if you're in Dallas, if you're coming to Chrissy Mayer's show, I hope to see you there. Take care, guys. Bye.